It's Friday and time for a new video from me. Hello too! In today's video, I would like to show you an analog camera from the early days of the Canon EOS system, the Canon EOS 850, not to be confused with the digital Canon EOS 850D. But before I introduce you to the camera in detail, here's a little note from me on my own behalf. A like would be great support for my work for you. And I am also happy about every new subscriber. That way you can support this channel easily and completely free of charge. Thank you very much. But back to the camera. The Canon EOS 850 was the third model, alongside the EOS 750, to be launched in October 1988. There was also a version with a databack of both models just mentioned. The Canon EOS 850 differs from the EOS 750 only in the absence of a built-in flash. The EOS 750 was the first Canon SLR camera with a built-in flash. The EOS 850 is an incredibly easy-to-use EOS camera. At the time, it was intended to arouse the interest of newcomers from the analog compact camera market. People who didn't want to deal with the technical intricacies of photography, but wanted to discover new possibilities through the possibility of changing lenses, and were generally looking for better image quality than was offered by many analog compact cameras. In many cases, the EOS 850 was also bought as a second body. And that's what it was made for. When developing the Autofocus SLR camera, Canon relied on lens internal motors for focusing and fully electronic signal transmission between the camera and lens. This necessitated the introduction of a new bayonet. The EF bayonet was born. Success was not long in coming, and Canon became the market leader for autofocus SLR cameras. In the years since the introduction of the EF bayonet, Canon claims to have produced over 150 million EF lenses. Therefore, you have a huge selection on the second-hand market and can shop for EF lenses to your heart's content. With the Canon EOS 850, all Canon EF lenses ever built can be used without restriction. No matter which motor drives the lens, no matter whether it is a lens with or without image stabilizer, all lens functions are supported by the camera. For example, the image stabilization of all the lenses I use that have a built-in IS also works with this older Canon EOS 850. Perfect, Canon. The mechanical quality of the housing is still based on the first EOS cameras, such as the EOS 650, 630, 620, or 600. The plastic used is of high quality, and the control dial makes a robust impression. The camera does not give the impression of later entry-level models of the EOS system, which are even lighter, but unfortunately also give the impression of cheap use of plastic. The EF bayonet of the EOS 850 is still made of metal and gives a high-quality impression. The camera weighs 560 grams and measures 14.9 by 9.7 by 7 centimeters. The viewfinder is fixed eye-level pentaprism, 0.8 times magnification and 92% coverage. The shutter is an electronic focal plane shutter with vertical movement. The camera can select a shutter speed between 2 seconds to 1/2000th of a second. The X-sync is 1/125th of a second with the hot shoe. As a fully electronic camera, the 850 requires electricity for all functions. It draws this power from a lithium 2CR5 battery, which is still readily available today. Canon did not offer an external handle for this camera. Replacing the battery is easy, as you can see here. I have read on the internet that this type of power supply is not sufficient for modern IS lenses. I cannot confirm this. Of course, with excessive use, a new battery is more likely to be required, but the stabilization function of the IS does not suffer under any circumstances by using a 2CR5 battery. If you are traveling or want to photograph an important event, simply take one or more spare batteries with you, and you are on the safe side. But that goes without saying. A film advance system used in this camera immediately winds the film to the end when it is loaded. During shooting, the frame counter displays the remaining number of frames as the film is rewound into the cartridge. Important: only use DX-coded 35mm films so that the camera can read the film speed, ISO or DIN abbreviated, as well as the film length and accept the data. ISO 25 is set for films without a DX code. Open the rear cover by pressing the latch downwards and pressing the release button at the same time. Insert the film cartridge as shown. Carefully pull the film leader over to the orange mark. Make sure that the film perforations engage correctly in the perforation teeth. Close the rear cover. The camera immediately transports the film to the end of the roll. The film has not been loaded correctly if an E appears in the frame counter and a beeper tone emits. Reload the film and try it again. You can confirm that film is loaded by the film load check window. All camera functions are controlled via this central dial on the right-hand side of the camera. To activate the camera, the control dial is turned from the off or lock position to program. If the shutter release button is now pressed lightly, the camera carries out an exposure measurement and focuses. When the shutter release button is pressed, a picture is taken. Simple, isn't it? After each shot, the camera transports the film to the next frame. If you keep the shutter release button pressed permanently, the film will continue to be exposed at approximately 1 frame per second. After the camera has done this hard work, it is time to check the battery status. To do this, turn the setting dial to the battery symbol and hold it there. The battery level is okay if the beep sounds quickly, about 8 times per second. If it sounds slowly, about twice per second, have a new battery ready. Replace the battery if there is no sound. An exciting exposure function with creative possibilities is the DEP, or depth of field function. This makes it possible to take pictures with a large depth of field without knowing the basics of photography. In this way, a wider area of the image from foreground to background is perceived by the human eye as being in focus, or in other words, sharp. Of course, the opposite can also be achieved by using this function to apply the necessary steps to just one point in the image. And it works as simply as this. Use the depth of field function to create a sense of depth in your images by focusing on 2 points. The flash and continuous shooting cannot be used in this mode. First, set the mode dial to DEP. Then, place the autofocus frame on the first point A, the foreground, and press the shutter release button halfway. This is step 1. Then remove your finger when the focus symbol, a green LED light flashes and a short beep sounds. This is the second step. Repeat steps 2 and 3 for the second point B, the background. Reset the image. Press the shutter release button to the first pressure point. The green LED lights up and a short beep sounds. Now carefully press the shutter release button all the way down to take the picture. Of course, the camera has a self-timer. You can use this if you want to be in the picture. The self-timer can also be used in low light when the camera is mounted on a solid surface or tripod. This prevents camera shake during exposure, which would blur the image. When you look through the viewfinder, you can expect a tidy view. Just 3 important pieces of information can be seen here. If the shutter release button is pressed halfway and none of the indicators are flashing, this is a good sign, and nothing stands in the way of a successful shot. If focusing is not possible, the green LED flashes and the shutter cannot be released. If the P indicator flashes slowly, about 4 times per second, this is the camera shake warning. Use a tripod or flash. A rapidly flashing P, which lights up about 8 times per second, warns of an incorrect exposure. use a neutral gray filter in bright surroundings or switch to flash photography in dark surroundings. Please note that an autofocus function is only possible if the switch on your lens is set to AF. Although the autofocus system is very accurate, there are some subjects that present some difficulty. Subjects with low contrast like misty scenes, light-colored or white objects. Subjects with extremely low-light situations, like a dark room or night scenes. Subjects having generally horizontal patterns. Subjects in extremely strong backlight with strong reflections. Subjects with an object in front of them like caged animals. Fast-moving subjects. To focus manually, move the selector switch to M accordingly. One weak point of the camera is the lack of the servo autofocus function, which you may be familiar with from other Canon EOS models. This AF function offers a tracking measurement of the autofocus and thus an adjustment to different distance settings when the subject moves towards or away from the camera. Unfortunately, servo is not available in the EOS 850. As you have already seen, changing the lens is very easy. The unlock button is pressed and the lens is turned counterclockwise and removed. To attach the lens, align the red dot on the lens with the red dot on the camera. Attach the lens and turn it clockwise until it clicks into place, and you can really use all Canon EF lenses. When you have removed the lens, please be careful not to touch the mirror or anything else inside the camera. I recommend using a bellows from time to time. This will allow you to remove dust from inside the camera. Never use cleaning agents, water, alcohol, or even a cloth on the inside of the camera. Here you can clearly see the frame counter. The camera unwinds the entire film after it is inserted from the film cartridge. After each exposure, the piece of film is pushed back into the film cartridge. This is intended to minimize the loss of images if the back of the camera is accidentally opened with the film inserted. At some point, you will have exposed the last frame of your film. The camera will rewind the remaining film into the film cartridge immediately after the last shot, fully automatically. Now you can open the back, remove the film, and continue to support analog photography by inserting a new film into your Canon EOS 850. Have fun taking photos! Thank you very much for your interest and your time. I hope I was able to introduce you to the Canon EOS 850. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. That would be a great help for my work. Thanks for that, stay healthy, and until the next video.